Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hoops Post Up for our new time viewers. Thanks for joining us. This is your Fantasy 5. We're here each and every week to break down risers and fallers, advanced stat sleepers, and so much more to help you with your fantasy basketball team.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. You'll get everything that's up to date and live as soon as it's out.
There you go. So let's start for week 3. We've got a couple weeks of action under our belt. And before we get to our risers and fallers, our typical 5, there's actually been some news, interesting news that we're going to break down a certain situation.
Oh my gosh, some up and coming news. I think it's quite scary actually.
Yeah, well, the second major suspension, this time in Atlanta. First, it was DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix for 25 games, and this time it is John Collins. So we're going to take a look at that situation and see, first of all, if you're a Collins owner, who is your replacement?
How is it going to affect your lineup?
It's definitely a major blow. Collins was probably a second round pick in pretty much every league. Definitely one of the top centers out there. So let's look at some of the options in Atlanta because there's just not a whole lot of centers out there blocking 3-4 shots a game off the waiver wire.
Okay, so we're looking at now that John Collins is out, who is Atlanta going to have to look to kind of step up and play, some good minutes for his time?
Absolutely. You know, that's the thing with fantasy. Just like if you play fantasy football, it's all about touches, right? Opportunity. You have to be on the field in order to get points. With basketball, same thing. A lot of these guys are on the court getting minutes, but not enough to make an impact. So the question is, who's going to step up and get even more usage? So the big name here and guy who's already kind of made some headlines with a couple of strong games is Jabari Parker.
Yes, we wanted to talk about Jabari Parker. So right now he's 24% owned in fantasy leagues right now.
Yeah, so widely available. If you've been following the NBA at all the last few years, you know who Parker is. I think it's safe to say by now he's not going to be the next LeBron. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Never lived up
He's still
quite to the
getting
hype.
14 points per game.
You
I
get
mean,
14
that's
points
not
per game. You know what's amazing? I just found
bad.
I had to double check this. He's only 24 years old. It seems like he's been around forever,
That
right?
is a familiar name.
But
Yes.
he's not even that old. So he's a guy who got plenty of talent. He's not gonna, like I said, or maybe live up to the hype, the expectations when he was in high school. But you know what? He's playing pretty well. And the only thing with him, if you look his per game stats, right, 14 points, it's okay. 4 rebounds, nothing to write home about. He's shooting a solid percentage. He's not a guy who's going to help you from 3-point land. But if you notice his per 36
Well, that's what
stats,
I was going to say. When I look, I'm just now learning, right? I'm not the expert he is. I'm just now learning about, fantasy. So per 36, 22 points, that's not bad at all. 6 rebounds.
what does that tell you?
I don't know. He's like being active and engaged during that 36 minutes that he's on the court. I
He's
mean, that's pretty impressive.
He could get a bump, be a 20-point scorer. Now, he's probably not going to get 36 minutes, but this guy definitely going to get more run, especially if he keeps shooting well. So definitely somebody to look for. It could fill some of that void. Now, here's the thing. You think, well, how does that help me if I'm a John Collins owner? Well, it doesn't in the sense of rebounds and blocks, right? You're looking for a big man. Parker's not a big man, but at least he's a guy that if you're looking for a wing player or a forward, he's somebody that could help in that sense because his numbers are bound to kind of keep going up.
Okay, so next up is DeAndre Hunter.
Hunter, we know if you follow the draft, number 4 overall pick, obviously very young. Surprisingly, not that much younger than Jabari Parker, though. So Hunter, though, is a guy that I know we think, well, maybe he's the one who will emerge.
I don't know. I'm not really comfortable with his numbers. If I look at his per 36, I'm only seeing 11 points. And, well, the 5 rebounds is not bad.
It's not bad, but is that really moving the needle? Not too
No,
much.
no, not too much.
So
No.
here's the thing. Hunter is kind of a raw talent, but also the fact he's never been a big scorer, even in college. He
Seriously,
wasn't a big
how long
scorer.
has DeAndre Hunter played?
Yeah, well, 5
5
games,
games.
NBA,
I think that's about it. He's a rookie.
2 years
So
in
what can we
college.
say?
So, yeah, don't expect him to all of a sudden emerge and take this big leap. Just because you're drafted high doesn't mean
I think he'd be
you're ready to
happy that
produce.
he's mentioned in our pod.
There you go. He should be happy. 19% owned. I think that's even a little optimistic. Speaking of being drafted high and not producing as much, Alex Len. If you can believe it, way back when, only a few years ago, but he was the number 5 overall pick
I
in the
can't
draft.
believe that. 5 overall pick. And seriously, I know he's not probably getting too much time on the court, but 4 points per game.
Now, obviously, his numbers are down. I mean, it's a
Yes.
small sample. 30% shooting, that's way below his career average. He's not going to shoot 30% for the year, I don't think. Is he?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no.
But you think, well, Len's a big guy. He's basically the modern big guy. He's like a Kelly Olynyk. He's the big guy who can shoot threes and grab some rebounds, and
Like Kelly's
that's
fashion.
pretty much it. Yeah, rocking the headband, the hair. That's
So
not doing it
cute.
for him. But anyways, Len, it almost surprised me he's this high owned. I think people are just still buying into his draft stock from years
It
ago.
must be because if I'm looking at his numbers, I don't know if he would be on my roster.
I don't know why he's on any rosters anymore at this point. Don't expect a big bump from him anytime soon, even if he does get somewhat hot. And then the last guy here, probably mostly an unknown, right?
Oh, Bruno Fernando.
Cool name. I do
Yeah.
like Bruno Fernando. Not Bruno Sammartino, those thinking about old WWF days. Bruno is a second round pick. She's like, what? Uh, so Bruno is a second rounder. He's very much a raw talent guy that has a way to go. You look at the field goal percentage, it looks encouraging. Look at his per 36.
His per 36 though. This is what impresses me because he has 17 points and 10 rebounds. 10.
And look, compare that to all the other guys we
Yes.
talked about.
I mean, if that's what you're needing, right? If that's where you're needing bump in your numbers on your fantasy league,
Right.
right?
So on the surface, you see, look, this is the guy to target. But here's the problem. How close is he even going to get to 36? How close is he even going to get to 20 minutes a game?
That's the problem.
I don't
Is he
think
going to get
it's
that
gonna
many
happen.
minutes on the court? Mm.
Very much kind of diamond in the rough. I know the Hawks were excited to get him. I think he was originally drafted by Philadelphia, but they acquired him. But anyways, I know that this is a guy that we think, well, maybe is a nice sleeper, but it's going to be a process. It's by the time the 25 games are up, he might just still be rounding into shape. So I wouldn't expect, based on the per 36 numbers, that he's going to all of a sudden be a fantasy asset, especially nowhere near the level of Collins. So,
All right.
all right. So now you ready to get into the actual fantasy 5?
Sure. Let's do the fantasy 5.
Let's do it. And we always start with what? The positive.
Risers.
Start with the
Got to
risers.
talk about the risers.
Here we go.
Okay, so first up on our fantasy risers, we have Aron Baynes. Aron Baynes.
Name you know well.
Oh my gosh, yes. He's actually on the Australian national team with my Patty Mills. Go Spurs, go. And Baynes used to be on the Spurs as well. Looking at his numbers, he's actually 57% owned right now. His per game, 15 points, 5.9 rebound percentage, or actually rebound, sorry. And then field goal percentage is 58.7.
Surprising, isn't it?
He's a beast in the paint. That's for sure.
We know he's a beast. We usually think of him on the defensive side, right? He's kind of like a
Yes.
modern day Bill Laimbeer almost.
Oh my gosh.
He's like the enforcer.
Lambeer, take us
Maybe it's the
back.
mask, right? The mask. But
They
anyways,
said he's getting a lot of love because he's wearing that mask.
that must be a very nice Twitter account. But anyways, but does it surprise you to see the points and then look at the last 3? Now we did mention DeAndre Ayton out, right? Obviously
Yeah.
suspension of his own 25 games.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody thought, hey, Aron Baynes will come up and fill that void, especially scoring wise.
Well, I know. I mean, you think of his last 3 games, he has 19.7 points, almost 20 points in the last 3 games. That's not bad at all.
Not bad at all. Definitely not what we expect from Baynes. The question is, can
Will
he
it-
keep it up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing Baynes, obviously his time in San Antonio, do you think this is kind of a fluke thing, or do you think he can actually sustain this? You think now he's got the experience, they trust him, there's not a whole lot of other options in Phoenix and down low, so
I think he has enough experience. I do think he's motivated.
Mhm.
Anyone wants to be on the court, right? You don't want to be on the bench. So maybe he's here. Maybe he's
Proving
ready to
himself.
show.
Let's see. All right.
All right, next up is Eric Pascal. Yeah, Eric Pascal from Golden State.
Oh, Golden State, which, by the way, everyone check out our separate
Golden
episode
State.
just on the Warriors, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Check out that show.
Yeah.
So obvious reason we're talking about a guy that nobody has ever heard of, but he's on Golden State.
Yeah.
So
we're mentioning him because who else is there? Who else is left?
what
Oh my
do
God,
they
their
have?
roster has been depleted to
And
nothing.
if you look at Golden State's starting lineup the other day and their roster, you will not
Wow.
recognize
Could you recognize them? Like
hardly
we had
anybody.
to study a little bit.
Yeah.
At least I did. I know.
I mean, no, this is a second rounder. Wasn't expected to play probably at all, if barely. Steve Kerr apparently loves him for
Okay.
whatever reason. That's encouraging. If the
Is
coach
he
likes
a
you,
defensive guy?
no. Well, is Steve Kerr a defensive coach?
No, he's a shooter.
Not really. Well, I think he likes his overall game because he's more of a power forward, right? He's a guy who can kind of swing both ways, but he's not. He doesn't play like a power forward. Now he's not a 3-point shooter either. But take a look at that field goal percentage. He's got a kind of a nice mid-range game, 60% field goal percentage. That's encouraging.
It is.
Again,
It
not
is. That's
not for a guy
bad.
who plays and lives just in the paint, but he's doing pretty well so far. And here's the thing, like I already said, Steve Kerr likes him. They kind of are looking at him to be next man up.
Well, Steve has to go to next man up
Well,
because
yeah.
he really doesn't have
Next
anything.
5 men up, I guess. But anyways, so he's a guy to look for. 51% owned. There are other options lesser owned, but Pascal's a guy that you should probably be targeting right now.
Excellent. Next up is Myers Leonard from the Heat.
The Heat. All right. Like my guy Leonard now, he's a guy who's kind of flown under the radar. And, he's not necessarily going to put up huge numbers each and every game. Last 2 games, very small, obviously sample, but the points have gone up. His ownership has gone up.
Yeah, he's 29% owned. I'm surprised.
Well, just yesterday I checked, it was 21%.
Wow.
So people are kind of
Nice
catching on.
job.
Now, here's a guy who, again, not known for his offensive game, but the Heat is a team that I must say has been a pleasant surprise to start the year.
They're actually, aren't they like second
Second
in
in the
East?
East. Start out, not too bad. Yeah.
Not too bad. Well, I can say I didn't expect that.
Yeah, no.
Let's go Heat.
Let's knock on wood and see if it lasts. But Leonard is a guy who's
Okay,
going to
nice
stay
start.
involved. He's not necessarily going to be the next Hassan Whiteside. Don't expect massive numbers in blocks or anything close to the rebounds. But he's got, a decent enough offensive game where I think he'll be consistent and a decent option, at least off the bench for center. Because this is a guy, I talk about John Collins. If you want John Collins filling, he's maybe the best option at that position.
Nice. Let's go Risers.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Next up. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Nemanja Bjelica.
Beautiful. All right, you were
Something
waiting
like
to say that
that.
name.
I'm trying. I'm working on it.
All right, so
So we have from Sacramento, right? This guy is 11% owned, and per game, 9 points, almost 6 rebounds, and yeah.
not numbers that would I don't know, entice you too much, right? You see that it's not even double digits in points.
Yeah.
So what is he doing on here?
Well, he's not owned too, so tell me why I need to pick him up.
Yeah, and then there's the fact that he is on Sacramento.
Yeah. No, I know. I said.
So why would we own a king, right? The Sacramento just barely got their first win.
Listen.
So, anyways, someone's got to score in Sacramento, right?
Right.
Someone's got to play. Marvin Bagley's out for a couple of weeks. Someone's got to kind of fill that void. Now, of course, Rashawn Holmes has kind of taken that job at center position and run with it. But he's 60% owned. Here's a guy who can play both forward positions and he can shoot the 3. If you look at that
I do
percentage.
notice that. I do notice that. In the last 2 games, he's had 58% at the 3-point line, right?
Pretty good.
Not bad.
So basically, if you're looking for some 3-point help and a little bit of a boost in scoring at maybe that power forward position so you can sneak in some more scoring where you're thin, here's a guy to look at.
Excellent. Next up is Troy Brown from Washington.
All right, so first rounder last year, didn't play to start this season, just had his first, I would say, full usage game And if you look, so notice usually I talk about the last 2 or 3, maybe the last week worth of stats. Just look at his last game where he actually was involved and played enough minutes to matter. 14 points, 10 boards, and then filled up the
Four
stat sheet.
assists.
4 assists and
3 steals. Wow, that's pretty cool.
pretty good because steals more of a rare commodity. Of course, a little less. It's a little hard to count on, but this is the guy who could kind of bring a nice all-around game, kind of at
Not
that
bad
wing
for
position.
Troy Brown. Not
Not
bad.
bad.
Only 11% owned, so it should be easy for you to kind of catch up.
Absolutely, there you
Put
go.
him on your roster.
So those were our risers, and now, sadly, we do have to look at the fallers.
Yeah, we have to talk about the fallers. Who's disappointing you?
All right.
Who's causing you pain?
Now, we don't talk about the guys in that top 50, right? We're not going to, oh, Russell Westbrook had a bad game the other day.
No,
You're not dropping, you're
No,
not
no,
benching.
you're not
so
gonna
it
get
doesn't
rid
matter.
of those
I
guys.
was tempted to put Russell Westbrook in there, but we're not going to do that.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, the way
So
he
we'll
played
look at the
against
ownership.
Heat the other
Yeah,
day.
yeah, he did. Yeah, the Heat did crush them mercilessly. But anyways, moving on.
So here we have first up on our fallers, Julius Randle from the Knicks.
And you know why?
Oh my
Who's
gosh.
taking the shine?
Well, you know.
It's your guy. Oh, sorry, it's not your guy. He didn't sign with the Spurs.
Oh
Psych.
my gosh, seriously, he's causing me pain. Morris?
Morris.
We're talking about Morris,
Marcus
right?
Morris
Oh my
is
God,
still
causing
ruining-
me pain.
He's looking really good in that
Oh,
Knicks jersey. But
I
anyways,
know. And good for him, I think.
hey, he got what he wanted.
I know he did.
But you know what? He's on the Knicks, so that's kind of like he wanted that. He could have been on a good team, but he chose the Knicks.
Yes,
But
I
anyways,
know.
so Morris looking really good. Randall kind of struggling. Now, if you look at those per game stats, you say, well, that's not too bad, right?
Yeah, that's not too bad. 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 41% at field goal.
If you can average a double-double, you say, well, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the scoring, though, how it's dropped now, of course, 2 games. Well, that's just 2 games.
Wow.
But
It's like in
points.
half.
It
It's
cut in
in
half
half.
almost. The boards are still there, but
The heck is Marcus
the
doing
shooting
over
is
there?
he's taking the shine. I don't know, but there was some concern. Randall might not adjust well to the Knicks. He obviously has less of a supporting cast, so we'll see what happens. But at this rate, Randall, don't cut him, of course, but maybe keep an eye.
Yeah, maybe
then
want to
maybe-
rethink how you place him in your roster.
Now, there is some thought, what always happens, right? If somebody who's highly owned or highly thought of starts to dip, then people think, well, maybe that's a buy low candidate.
Okay.
But what if you buy low and he keeps going low? Then that's the risk you're taking. So I don't know. Do you think we should be patient on Randall, or is it a little too early to?
I don't
raise your
know. I
flag?
think it may be a little too early. Let's
Yeah.
just check things out. But I know, man, Morris is hot right now.
Morris is hot. You never know. New team, new mix. But anyways,
All right, next up we have Patrick Beverly from the Clippers.
the Clippers.
63% owned. Y'all are loving on him, and rightfully so, right?
Well, to me, Beverly's always been
Are
a
you
guy.
saying no?
Well, he is a faller for a reason.
Wow. Okay,
Beverly's
so
Always been a little
educate me.
overrated to me.
Educate me.
Because people like his game, his overall game, but in the fantasy world, I don't care about it, what he does on the court. It's the numbers, it's the stats. I don't
Yeah.
care how good his defense is. He's a defensive guy.
But I know in
He's a
fantasy
glue
numbers
guy.
matter, right?
Is
Everything.
Is he a shooter per se? Do we consider him a shooter? No.
No.
He'll get his buckets driving to the lane, but he's not a guy that I count on as consistently scoring and shooting. And here's the problem. There's a certain player that's about to debut for the Clippers, right? Certain guy named George, or should I say Paul.
Yeah, he's been on the bench injured.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so when Paul
Yeah.
George comes back, is that going to help Beverly or is it going to hurt Beverly?
Of course it's going to hurt him.
Yeah,
We all know
because
that.
you know what? You would think having one of your main scorers, main guys, would help the other guys, give them a little chance to score more.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not happening. I
that's
don't think
not
it's going to happen.
happen.
Maybe he'll get a couple more assists here and there, but it's just not enough scoring for me.
Okay. So let's take a look at Terrence Ross. Unfortunately, he is on our fallers list. Whoo!
Can see
Okay.
why.
Yeah, we can see why, right? 8.7 points, only 3 rebounds, and 27% field goal.
27,
Oh
that's
my God.
bad.
That is bad.
Now, Is he going to shoot 27% all year?
No,
No.
no.
Okay, but here's the thing. Start out slow, and part of it's due to injury. We don't know when he's going to get
So
100%.
with Orlando, the Magic, what's going on there? Like, why all of a sudden? Like,
I don't. It's well. There's nothing that else that should be going on. This not like there was a team that had some major upheaval.
mm-hmm,
Ross, he's a strong sixth man, a shooter off the bench.
mm-hmm.
But here's the problem with shooters: they're streaky,
Yeah.
and when you're on, you're on. When you're off, you're off. And this could be a year where he struggles to find his flow. Maybe you can say he's a buy low candidate too, but I'd say you got to keep him on the bench unless he's really producing because he's not helping you in a lot of other categories. I mean, he's not going to get you a lot of boards, as you see. He's not getting you assists. He's not helping you if he's not shooting well. And he's not shooting well,
Okay.
so there's no reason to play him.
That's true. That's right. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about Dwayne Dedmon.
Deadman. You
Dedmon.
know him, former Spur too.
Oh, of course they all are.
Here's
We get 'em-
another.
We get them to where they need to be, and then
That's right.
send
Well,
'em off on
there's
their
something
way.
to be said for that, right? Former Spur, they coached him up, and then he made a name for himself. Had a nice season in Atlanta.
So this power forward at Sacramento is doing
Not much.
no 5 points. Oh,
That's
per
not good.
game. That's not good at all. 35, almost 36% from the field goal range.
For a
No.
big guy, not
No.
acceptable.
No.
And he thought, oh, he's a big guy who can hit the three. Well, yeah, well, his last 4 games, he's shooting 12% from the
Wow.
3-point lane. So
Wow.
the problem, I already mentioned this with Sacramento. We thought, well, maybe his numbers will go up with Bagley out. No, Holmes has stepped up, and
Nice.
how do you say it again? Bielitsa
Bielitsa.
is a guy who is scoring. Dedmon is
That's right.
maybe kind of working his way out of the rotation there. So at the very least, bench him. He might be droppable pretty soon.
Really? You would even say droppable.
He's not on a good team.
Wow.
He's not fitting in just yet. He might be on the chopping block.
All right. We'll keep you posted and check in on his numbers.
And a guy who
Okay.
definitely looks like he's on the chopping block.
JaVale McGee.
Oh, we all love JaVale McGee, don't we?
Oh
For a
my
variety of reasons,
gosh.
we love JaVale McGee.
Yeah, I love his do and his little
Love
yeah,
the hair.
something.
Love his we call it antics. So we were watching the Lakers game the other day. Well, unfortunately, watching the Lakers
Hey, my Spurs
barely get the
competed.
Spurs.
No, they did a good job.
But it wasn't McGee, obviously, besides the big two that we know about, but it
Yeah.
wasn't McGee who was making an impact in the paint.
Yeah. Kuzma.
Kuzma
Kuzma was
stepped in.
shooting from where?
He's,
I thought he was
could
shooting
hit
all
three,
over
but
the
he was
place.
playing inside quite a bit. But our guy Dwight Howard.
Oh, you were talking about that's right. What am I talking about? Dwight was in the double-double. Dwight, double-double.
Dwight.
Like he's been hitting it. Oh my gosh, he's been intense.
He's been looking pretty good so far as a Laker, and his second go as a Laker, and he's gonna take over
I
McGee's
think
role.
it
I
was the
think
new
pretty soon.
hairdo that did it for him. He finally released.
Yeah, I don't know what that's. I literally I was like, who's that?
No, he
Who's
had
that
him braided
silver-
before. Now
Oh.
he let it go, so he's actually letting it flow
I
now.
paid attention to that, I guess.
Oh my god.
Him and Tim Duncan, I don't know. They just need to get rid of that.
Oh, I think
Anyways,
they're cute.
I didn't recognize him, but finally figured out that's Dwight Howard.
No,
it's not
but he
JaVale
was
McGee.
he was getting like quick,
He's moving quick.
Oh
He's
my
looking in
gosh.
shape.
and he was
Um,
very aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Very aggressive. Like he's trying to prove a point. And I love it. No, seriously. Like he's looking for affirmation from his bench. Every time he shoots, every time he puts something in, he's turning to that bench and looking for
He's
seriously.
inspired, and inspired Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, was one of the best players in the NBA at one time.
Superman at one point.
He's still, maybe not Superman anymore, but he's looking pretty good. So the bottom line here,
So-
McGee, go back to the stats here.
All right.
Just
So,
not doing
bless his
anything.
heart. 4.7 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 66% from the field goal.
So the field goal percentage is good because,
bad.
well, when you only score 4 points, then they're both
Then
dunks
they're-
probably.
Exactly. So your percentages go up. Okay.
And the most
But-
concerning thing at the very end.
Yeah, he only has 11 minutes played.
Last 2 games,
Wow.
he's barely even getting the
Barely
court. So
on the court.
again, you cannot help your team if you're not playing. So I would say McGee pretty safe to drop at this point because we know, assuming Anthony Davis stays healthy, and Dwight Howard keeps doing what he's doing,
Yeah, he was a
McGee's
beast.
not going to have any
Oh my
value.
God. Okay. All right. So this was our week's fantasy risers and fallers.
That's right. And so check back next week, our Fantasy Five. We'll go back to the advanced stats. We talk about things like per 36 stats, box plus minus, the usage rate, so many more things that you probably don't see in your typical stat line. But we're going to break it down for you to help find some sleepers.
And don't forget, comment below. You have questions for him? Like, he's the
Absolutely.
expert. He can help you. Ask those questions.
Ask away. Trade
Yeah.
questions, waiver questions, lineup questions, anything you got, hit us up with it. And of course, follow us on Twitter at Hoops Post Up. You see the name right up there. That's the same as our YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, follow, comment. We want to hear
And
from you.
we're on Instagram as well. Okay?
Instagram
So
too.
don't forget to follow us there. Comment below. Interact with us. Thank you so much for everything. Peace and love, everyone. Peace and
Peace.
love.